If you are struggling to understand a foreign language, but you have no time to practice, you don't have hours to listen to podcasts or to attend lessons with a teacher, then this video is for you because I'm going to share my 5 favorite strategies that you can do in just 10-15 minutes per day and that can significantly help you develop your listening skills in any language. And if you are wondering who is this lady and why should I listen to her, my name is Esther. I'm a doctor in language education. That means I have a PhD where I researched the best, most efficient ways to learn and teach languages. I have studied 9 languages myself throughout my life to different levels of proficiency, and I also train as a professional translator and interpreter. So I've basically just devoted my entire life to languages and communication. And my goal is to bring you the best research-backed advice on how to learn and use languages so that you can become fluent as fast as possible. So this question was actually sent to me by Leonard, one of the members in my community. He is a very busy parent. He has 2 little kids. He has a very time-consuming job, and he's trying to learn Mandarin, but he really struggles understanding people when they talk to him. However, he has no time for lengthy podcasts or to practice with a tutor. He cannot really accommodate that in his schedule. So he asked me, Esther, is there any way that I can realistically improve my listening skills, my comprehension skills, even if I don't have a lot of time every day to practice? And I love this question because it's exactly the same case that I see with my private students who are CEOs and founders in different companies and who are really struggling to find the time to practice and to improve their language skills. So the same as with Leonard, we need to find the best, most effective strategies that are going to give us the best possible results in the shortest possible time. And that is exactly what I am going to give you today. Remember that if you want to be able to ask questions as Leonard did, you now have the possibility to join my private WhatsApp community. I'll leave the link in the description, and inside the community, and I will record videos I will publish here so that you have the most detailed answer I can give you to your question. And if you are learning a language but you're feeling stuck and like it doesn't matter what you do, you are still not progressing, you might be interested in my workshop, Clear Your Way to Fluency. This is a 60-minute session during which you are going to take a unique test I have developed to help students just like you who are feeling stuck understand why they're stuck, what are the roadblocks, and most importantly, what actions they need to take straight away if they want to overcome these roadblocks. If you think you might be interested, you can check all the details in the link in the description. We usually think that the more time you put, the better you're going to get. But that is not always true, because if that time you're not investing it in doing quality practice, it might be that even if you're putting a lot of time, you are not seeing results. And we saw already this a long time ago with reading skills, that we realized a lot of students that were reading a lot were not necessarily better readers because they were not necessarily more strategic readers. And listening, it's exactly the same. There are people that can listen for hours and hours to podcasts every day. And yes, their listening skills are going to improve, but it doesn't mean that you need necessarily to spend 2 hours per day to be able to improve at the same rate. And with the strategies I'm going to show you, I see students every day who are just putting 10-15 minutes of practice per day, and they are seeing much better results than other students who are spending hours and hours on end watching films or listening to podcasts of materials that are not necessarily at the right level, that they're not targeted to their needs. So of course they're going to be progressing a little bit, but they are not progressing as fast as a student who is doing very targeted practice for much shorter periods of time. And I always say learning a language or any of the skills inside a language, it's the same as trying to get to a remote beach. There are students that live and they have the GPS, they have the right vehicle, they know the road, they've been there before, and they get there in no time. While other students are just leaving without a GPS, they don't know where the beach is exactly, they don't know the road, they don't know how to get there, and honestly, sometimes they just get lost, stuck on the road, and they never make it to the beach. So this is exactly exactly the same. What we are trying to do here is to get you that GPS, that map, that vehicle, everything that you need so that you can reach your goals as fast as possible and you're not wasting time going around and trying a million things without actually seeing any progress. So let's dive right into the 5 strategies. The first strategy is what I call targeted listening. Now, I want you to select a very short audio file or video. This should be anywhere between 45 to 60 seconds, no more, because remember you have 10-15 minutes and we are going to have to listen to it quite a few times. So you want to select something that's short and easy to handle. Shorts on YouTube or Reels on Instagram are super good material for this type of tasks because they are the right length. If you are at the beginner level, I recommend that you choose audio files or videos that are adapted to that level. If you are already around like lower intermediate level, I recommend that you go for authentic materials because it's going to be more motivating and it's good that you are exposed to how people speak in real life. So what I want you to do is to listen to it for the first time. And if you are using Reels or Shorts and there are captions, make sure you don't look at the captions. So either you cover them or just simply don't look at the phone. Just listen to it and try to see what you can understand. Try to see if you understand at least the topic. Of course, you won't understand the details, but just the main message. Now, once you've listened that first time for the general understanding or even like a second time if you need it, I want you to listen it again, but I want you to listen for the details. Now, I'm not just interested about the general idea. Now I want you to worry about the details. Try to catch as many details as you can from this video. Try to understand not just the verb, but like, is it in the past? Is it in the future? Is it one person that did it? Is it several people? Is it like I am speaking in first person or is someone speaking in a third person? So try to capture all of those little details that maybe you just didn't pay attention to when you listened to it the first time. And then the third time that you listen to the video, what I want you to do is to look at the script. So look at the script or look at the captions, whatever is easiest. And now I want you to pay attention and compare what you understood to what now you understand when it's written. Now, there are going to be things that you didn't understand. And there are usually 2 common situations here. Either you didn't understand because you don't know the word. It's a new word or a new expression and you simply didn't know it. So of course you wouldn't have understood it. In that case, I want you to check a dictionary. I mean, you can check Google or you can check whatever it is that helps you understand what words mean these days. And I want you to understand the meaning, write it down in that list that I'm sure you have, right? With all of those words that are new and that you need to learn and that you need to pay attention to. Right, so you put them in that list and make sure that you repeat them a few times to kind of record in your brain also the pronunciation of these new words, okay? I want you to try to remember not just what it means and how it's written, but also how it's pronounced. What does it sound like, this word? And then the other case is that maybe you find words in the script that you know, but you simply didn't recognize them because you didn't remember how they were pronounced. So in this case, I want you to just focus on the pronunciation. If you need, what you can do is that you get the word, you put it in ChatGPT or anything that allows you to hear that word pronounced correctly, and you listen to that word in isolation and you repeat it a few times. Because if you didn't recognize it, it means you didn't remember how to pronounce it. So it's good that we reinforce that in your brain of like, okay, this word is pronounced this way. Now that you're looking at the script, I want you to also try to notice any interesting things that are happening in that script. Maybe there are grammar rules that you kind of know, but you didn't realize when you listened to them. Maybe there are expressions that you maybe understood the general meaning, but now it's the moment to pay close attention and try to understand exactly what they mean. Anything that you think is interesting about the text, I recommend that you write it down because again, writing it down, especially by hand, is really going to help you learn it at a much deeper level than if you are just listening to it. So now that you've gone through all the expressions, all the grammar, all the words, everything that this text had and that was a bit problematic, I want you to listen to it once again, looking at the script. And then this time, I want you to focus on all of those problematic points. I want your brain to go like, cling, that was a problematic thing. I have to pay extra attention to how it's pronounced because I remember this was a problem. So I want to make sure it's not a problem in the future. You can do that once, you can do that twice if you want. And then what I want you to do at the end of these 10-15 minutes is that last time you're going to listen to this text without the script. And I want you to pay attention to all of those words, expressions, little grammar features that you did not understand at the beginning. And I want you to be able to recognize them and understand them as you are listening to this video now. And in 10 minutes, you've just gone from listening to a very short video that you did not fully understand to understanding it fully without even needing to look at the subtitles, and also having learned maybe a few words and refreshing a few grammar structures or expressions in your mind. And that is an extremely helpful task that you can do if you only have like 10-15 minutes. You can do it any day, and you have plenty of content online that you can use to do this kind of tasks. Now, the second strategy is what I call chunk shadowing. If you've ever heard about the technique shadowing, it's when you are going to repeat after what the video says. And what I usually recommend, because you only have 10-15 minutes per day, is that you reuse one of the videos where you've already done the targeted listening practice on. Why? Because that means you already know the video, you understand the message, you are familiar with the words, and you don't have to worry about all of those things that otherwise are going to take some of your time. And if you only have 10-15 minutes, you have no time to waste. So I would recommend that maybe alternate, and you can do one day, one exercise, and then the next day you do this chunk shadowing, you recycling the same video that you used the day before. And what you are going to do now is to go and listen to it sentence by sentence. And I want you to pay attention. Are there any words that are causing you problems? Are there any words that you are struggling to pronounce? If there are, then try to practice them separately. You can repeat them on the video, or otherwise find a text to voice generator that works in the language that you're learning. And you can always get that word, put it in that generator, and get it to say the word, so you can just repeat it in isolation. And this is a very, very good exercise if you are struggling with certain words or even with certain sounds, because it will give you a bit of extra practice on how to pronounce those sounds. So once you are over those little words that are a bit problematic, I want you to start shadowing. I want you to listen to the video, first sentence, you stop, you repeat that. Make it short sentences, okay? Because sometimes I say sentences and students tell me like, yeah, but the entire 45 seconds is one sentence. I'm like, no. Chunk it. That's what we call it, like chunk shadowing. You have to chunk it to maybe like 5-10 seconds. You are going to be practicing your working memory. Your working memory has a capacity. And if you let it go for 20 seconds, you won't be able to remember. What we want is that you are able to have as fresh as possible in your mind how that specific little sentence sounds, so that you can repeat it as closely to the original as possible. And I want you to focus not just on the pronunciation, the articulation of the sounds, but also on the intonation and the rhythm. And I want you to do this sentence by sentence until you finish with the audio. And I can guarantee again that with a 45-60 second audio or video, you're going to be fine for 10 minutes if you do this exercise correctly. And this exercise is extremely, extremely helpful because it's not just working on your listening, but also on the little pathways in your brain that go from listening to something to actually trying to imitate it. And that it's going to reinforce in your brain the pathways that will remember how that sounds. Now you might be thinking, but Esther, this is a pronunciation exercise, it's not a listening exercise. Yes, no. Yes, it's a pronunciation exercise, but that here really is the bonus. What we are interested in is in developing those listening skills. And we know from research that when you are activating the motor skills part of your brain in order to imitate and to pronounce the same things that you are listening to, you are encoding the sounds at a much deeper level. And it's going to be easier for your brain to remember those sounds and those words if you try to repeat them and to imitate them after what you've heard than if you are just listening to them. So this is why this is extremely powerful as a listening exercise, and of course also for pronunciation, but in this case the pronunciation is just a bonus. The third strategy is what I call minimal pairs practice. And again, this comes from pronunciation training, but remember that pronunciation training is very close to listening training. And these are some of the techniques that speech pathologists actually use when they are working with the students, especially with the students who are struggling to hear the sounds in a foreign language. So what do I mean by minimal pairs practice? Minimal pairs are words that are basically the same except for one sound. And that sound might be very close. So those two words might actually get confused in certain contexts. So for example, in English, it would be like a bet or a bit, or it could be a cap or a cup. And even if you are a native speaker of English, this may sound quite like obvious that those sounds are different. I am sure that in other languages, like in Spanish or in French, there are sounds that may not sound so obvious to you. So for example, in French, I struggled a lot with the s and z, which for us in Spanish, we don't have it. So my baby brain was never actually trained to hear the difference between those two sounds. But the difference between saying poisson and poison, it's the difference between saying a fish or a poison. So as you can tell, huge difference. So what you are going to do is you can ask ChatGPT actually for a list of minimal pairs that are adapted to your level and to the languages that you're learning. You get a list of like 8 to 10 pairs, no more, because you've got 10-15 minutes. So we need to be very strategic. And you're going to get those lists and ask ChatGPT as well, or any other text-to-speech app that you found and that you think works well for your language. Ask it to read those words so that you can listen to them and try to repeat them. Again, remember, repeating the words is going to help you remember better how they sound. So you're going to try to repeat them in isolation. And then what I want you to do, that's only the first part of the exercise today. I want you to go to ChatGPT or whatever is your AI of choice and ask it to create one sentence for each minimal pair. And that sentence should include only one of those words. And you don't look necessarily at the sentence, like don't look at it. But if you can, tell ChatGPT to read it to you. If you can't use ChatGPT, then without really looking at the sentence, copy paste it, put it in one of those text-to-speech apps and listen to it. And the exercise I want you to do is to try to guess which of the two words is the one that was used. Now, these are words that are very fresh in your mind. You've just been practicing them. If you've practiced them right and repeated them several times, now you hear them in a sentence. So the complexity goes up a little bit, but it should still be relatively easy to hear the difference because you've just literally trained your brain 10 minutes ago on this. So it should still be there in the working memory. And then try to see if you can differentiate them. And this is like an extremely useful exercise. If you've got like one day, 10 minutes, don't know what to do, you do this and at least you are getting rid of those confusing words that people from your mother tongue usually confuse in the target language. If you have a teacher or a partner or a friend that speaks the language and that can create the sentences or read them out for you, this works equally well. I'm just assuming that you have no one, and that's what I am leveraging AI. But of course, if you have a human, that is always better. And remember, this type of exercise, you can do it as well with words that you are struggling with. They don't need to be minimal pairs. If there are certain words that you are really struggling to recognize or certain structures, like, I don't know, I can never understand the passé composé in French. Okay, then in that case, ask ChatGPT to create the sentences, read them out loud for you, mix them up with other tenses, maybe with the imparfait and the passé composé, and then that will allow you to practice whatever it is that you are struggling with. Now, strategy number 4 is very similar to the previous one, but we add a little bit more of complexity. Now, I just told you if you have problematic words, ask ChatGPT to just use them in isolation in short sentences. Now, what I want you to do is those problematic words, I hope you are making a list of them. I hope you have noted them down somewhere. Now, I want you to go to that list and select 5 of them, okay? Because again, we've got 10-15 minutes, so we need to be very strategic. Start with the 5 that are the most problematic or that confuse you the most. And then give them to ChatGPT or your AI of choice and ask that it creates a short text. So specify it has to have like 100, 150 words, no more, because otherwise you'll end up with 3 paragraphs. Just a little short text at your level. So specify what your level is. That includes these problematic words. Now, what I want you to do is the same. Either you tell ChatGPT to read it out loud for you, or you're going to take it and put it in a text-to-speech app, or obviously if you have someone that can help you, then this person will read it out for you. And when you listen to it, what I want you to focus in this case It's just on those words that are problematic and that you usually don't understand. And if there are 5 of them, I want you to be able to raise your hand every time that you hear one of those words. And I want you to focus on also understanding all the contextual features about this word. I don't know if this word is a verb. I want you to be able to tell me what's the tense, what's the conjugation, what's the person. Because one thing it's understanding that someone has said the verb comer, but I want you to be able to tell me if it's I eat or I ate or they ate. I want you to be able to give me a bit the details and to be able to catch those details inside the text. So if, for example, you are struggling again with the past tense in Spanish or in Italian, you can just ask ChatGPT to create a text that has 5 verbs in different past tenses. And then you focus on understanding the past tense, the person, everything. If it's a word, it's the same. I want you to understand if it's a plural or if it's the singular. I want you to understand what happens around it. Is there a preposition before it? Is that word doing the action, or is that word receiving the action, or is that word just a complement to the action? So I want you to be very, very, very analytical, because you only have 10-15 minutes and you're working with a very short audio file that allows you to go on hyper focus and make the most of those 10-15 minutes and make sure that your brain is encoding as much information as possible from that tiny little input and from that tiny little burst of practice that you are getting. And then the 5th strategy, it comes in 2 variations. I have the beginner level and then the intermediate level. The beginner level, I would take a fairly short text, something between 20-30 seconds, no more. Why? Because what I want you to do now, it's one of the most effective ways of developing your listening skills, which is very widely unpopular, and that is dictation. And even if it's, again, very unpopular, research shows that dictation is an extremely effective way of developing your listening skills, especially if you are doing it properly and you are following these instructions. Now, what I want you to do is to try to listen to the text. Listen to it the first time so that you see what you understand. And you're going to realize there are gaps already, probably things that you didn't understand. No problem. I want you to then try to write down what you are listening. So you just stop. That's why it's only 20-30 seconds. You're going to stop it and you're going to try to write down what you are hearing. And I want you to think, how confident are you about each of the things that you're writing down? And if you want, and you are a bit of a visual learner and you like colors, sometimes what helps is coloring down. Green is I'm 100% sure that this is what I've heard. Red is probably a blank, something here, I don't know what it was, sounds weird, I didn't get it. And then in yellow, it's I'm probably 50-50. I think they said that, but I might be wrong. So you're going to do that. And then you're going to go to the script and you are going to check how right were you. So at this point, I want you to listen to it again, now with the script. And I want you to pay extra attention to every single word that you had highlighted in red or in yellow, or that was wrong, even if it was in green. And I want you to stop in there. Every time there's one of those, just stop, go back a second, listen to it again, and try to remember the sound. And once you are clear on the mistakes you've made, I want you to look at every single thing that you got wrong and try to make an extra effort to understand why you got it wrong. What is it that you heard that is different from what was said? Is it just a tiny sound at the end? Is it the entire word? Is it maybe a word that you didn't know and that's why you didn't even know how to write it down? Depending on the language, that might not be an excuse though, because languages like Spanish, even if you don't know what the word means, if you listen to it carefully, you should be able to actually write it down. But whatever the reason is, I want you to be very critical with this and to understand the reason behind, because that's going to help you also see what is it that you need more practice on. If it was just that you didn't pay attention to the ending, then you have to pay attention to the endings in the future. If it's a specific sound that you are struggling with and that you struggle to hear, then you need more practice on that sound. And then if you are not a big fan of dictation exercises and or you have a bit of more intermediate level and this exercise would be a bit too basic for you, even if I disagree, because dictation exercises are useful even if you're an advanced learner. But if you want to spice it up a bit, what you can do is just take a slightly longer video or audio, so maybe 30, 40, 50 seconds. I wouldn't go up to the minute, but it's up to you. And then listen to it and try to identify the key words, the key ideas, remember the key in communication is always who does what, where, when, why, how. So try to answer those questions. And when I say when and where, it depending on the language you're learning. If you are learning, for example, German, I want you to try to understand, okay, so you've got a preposition here. So what's the ending of the word after the preposition, right? Because that's going to change. And if you are learning, again, French or Spanish, I want you to focus on maybe the tense of each sentence. Like, are we speaking in the future, in the present, in the past, which future, which past? And how do you know that? And pay attention to it. Pay attention to the little cues that are telling you all of those details. And I want you to write them down. I want you to write them down in as much detail as you can, considering you've got 10-15 minutes, no more. You can listen to it a few times until you are sure. So I really disagree with those exercises where they only let you listen to it once or twice. Like real life, you can actually ask people to repeat things. You can play them again. It's not like you can only listen it to once and that's it. So if you don't understand, listen to it until you feel more or less confident, and then you can look at the script and confirm whether your theories, your hypotheses were actually right or whether you got it completely wrong. And what I want you to do, even if you got them wrong, what I want you to do is to note down in that little notebook that you've got where you write all the words that are problematic, all the problems. Well, there I want you to write what confused you and why. And I want you to, again, be analytical and think, was it like the sound? Was it the ending? There might be a number of reasons. So I want you to think deeply about it. And, when you're working with video, with audio, there might be a lot of reasons. It might be just the noise background that didn't let you listen to it. It might be the music that they've put when they created this little short or this reel. It might be the accent. The person might have a strong accent, and that's what made you not understand a word that you would have normally understood. Or it may be simply that they are pronouncing the word in a different way from what you expect. So in any case, you write it down and you keep track of it. And you can use these words from this exercise and from the previous one or in some of the previous strategies that I mentioned, like the minimal pairs practice. So these were my 5 favorite strategies. Let me know what you think in the comments if you are using them and if you find them useful. As a last note, please remember that while doing 10-15 minutes per day, it's better than doing nothing. It's usually recommended that you supplement those 10-15 minutes of quick practice with 1, 2, 3 hours of more extended practice per week, because that's when you're going to take a lot of these things that you are barely touching upon during these short sessions, and you're going to be able to reinforce them, you're going to be able to integrate them and to do other types of activities like writing or speaking. I always say this to my students, yes, 1 hour per day would be ideal. 5 hours per day would be ideal, but if you cannot do 5 hours, do 1 hour. And if you cannot do 1 hour, just do 10 minutes. But it's better to do 10 minutes every day than just not doing anything and not practicing the language at all. And frankly, 10 minutes compound. At the end of the year, you're going to be significantly better than you were at the beginning, even if you don't do anything else apart from those 10 minutes. So please, if I can just give you a last tip, put those 10 minutes in. I know it's hard. Make yourself do it. And believe me, if you do that for 30 days straight, in 30 days, you're going to be thanking yourself for having the discipline to do it, because you will already notice a huge difference in your listening skills. And I'd like to finish the video with a quote from someone that I admire. It's a researcher in second language acquisition. His name is John Field. And he has 2 sentences that really stayed with me from the days I first encountered his works back at university. And he specializes in listening skills. And he says that understanding in real life, it's always partial, and that inference, so trying to guess, it's always crucial. And I think that really summarizes what listening is, because we can do a lot of exercises and we can try our best to develop our listening skills. But even for me, that I've told you I've been a conference interpreter, I should be able to have like 100% perfect understanding. And I can guarantee you that I do not have it. And I can guarantee you that the immense majority of the conference interpreters I have met wouldn't say I can 100% understand what I'm hearing in all my languages. And even for me in Spanish, it's my mother tongue. I cannot understand 100% sometimes. If people have like a strong regional accent or they speak really fast, like frankly, I don't understand 100%. So just remember that in real life, understanding when people speak, there is a lot of deducing and inferring the meanings and negotiating the meaning with the other person and clarifying what they mean. So yes, practice your listening skills, but just be realistic about your expectations. If you found this video interesting, you can subscribe to my channel. I've got a lot of new content coming up where I'm answering a lot of the questions that the students in my community have asked. If you want to join my community and be one of those students asking questions, you can just join with the link in the description. And if you enjoyed this video, but you are also struggling with speaking and you suffer from those freezing moments that happen when you are trying to speak the language, I recommend that you watch this video next, where I explain my blueprint to diagnose why you might be freezing and all the steps that you can take to stop freezing and start sounding much more fluent in the language.